Good afternoon. Welcome to Reboot 2020 Thesis Panel Discussion. I hope you're all doing well at home. Today we are honored to be joined by three amazing ITE alumni from Batch 2020. So they actually just recently graduated. So we have Nick Saavedra, co-founder and CEO of Venti Eats. We have Angela Mercado, co-founder and COO of ACADS, and who was also actually the president of BITE 1920 last year. So she was my boss last year. And last but not the least, we have Jed Ko, co-founder and operations head of Lisa and president of BITE 1819 2 years ago. So for those who didn't know, Jed and Angela were actually part of the founding team of BITE. So we have them to thank for basically everything we have now. So first of all, on behalf of BITE, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today and being willing to share about your thesis projects and your startup journey to the BITE community, especially to our freshies and shift-ins. So to start, perhaps each of you could give a brief introduction of your startup and what your startup does. So we can start with Nick.
Okay, so Venti Eats it's a community-driven food delivery platform that connects you to our trusted chefs and bakers. So we make it easy for you to find favorite home-cooked meals while empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises. So given that the present situation is uprooting the norms and changing our way of life, so we wanted to provide comfort through meals made with love. Yeah, so that's what Venti Eats is about.
Would you say it's something like a food panda, but then for home cooks?
Yeah, something like that. So we wanted to like embrace the home baker, home chef community, and we wanted to help them, especially during this pandemic.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much. Angela, can you give a brief introduction of ACADS?
ACADS was my thesis. So basically, we're an online platform that connects college student tutors to grade school or high school kids. So pre-COVID, we were just connecting tutors to students, and they would go to the physical either house or location, like maybe a Starbucks or a McDo, where the student wanted to learn. But then, since we're in like COVID times and that can't really happen, we've sort of pivoted to becoming a fully online platform. We're not just doing the connecting, we're also doing payments and also conducting the sessions themselves.
Great, thank you so much. Jed, can you please introduce Lisa to us?
All right. So Lisa Cleaning is basically a startup that connects mom and pop cleaning establishments to the people who need them. So basically, there's two entities. So technically, it's like a Grab. However, it's for cleaning, where you connect not the largest partners, I guess, but you connect people who need home cleaning services to the cleaning establishments that are near them or around them that normally, ideally, they don't know or haven't heard of. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for the introductions. Next question, Angela, how did your group come up with your thesis idea? So, what were your inspirations behind it?
But actually, ACADS is actually my brainchild kasi. So, like our thesis prof, Ma'am Claire, she was very what's it called? Like she told us like to always be observant of like our surroundings because you'll never know there's actually like a pain point there that hasn't been addressed. So I was like, okay, I was like usually like going about my day, and then like one day I was just overhearing my mom talking to my youngest brother Nate, because Nate isn't the best. I mean, like actually like even me, like my family, we're not that good in Filipino, but Nate especially was struggling with the Filipino subject in school, and he'd always have a tutor. But then that day, I think like my mom said that he failed the quiz even if he had a tutor. So she was asking him, "Oh, do you want us to find you another tutor? Do you want us to call your previous tutor? Like this is not working." And then I was like thinking to myself, like how else could my mom find another tutor? Like I was thinking it was either through tutorial centers or like through referrals. Like she'd have to ask people, pa, oh, do you know a Filipino tutor who can teach my son, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, it shouldn't be that hard to like find tutors, especially freelance tutors. Like I'm pretty sure there are like huge number of tutors that don't have like clients. And then there are these like parents and students that also like would prefer freelance or like one-on-one tutoring, but can't find these tutors. So that's why I suggested ACADS to my group.
So does your brother use ACADS now to get a tutor?
Well, class just started like just last week, so they don't have any class yet. So right now, no.
You mentioned that the whole idea of ACADS was your brainchild. So was this idea something you had even before thesis classes started? Is this something that you were like, you know, even while you were in second year, first year, that, hey, I want to pursue this idea? Or did it just come when you were actually having the ideation classes already?
It was actually like because of ideation classes. Like I actually didn't think about thesis like too much when I was like second year. Because actually I shifted in, so I was only IT second year. So I didn't really think about it second year. It was really like third year when we were instructed talaga to be open and to be very observant what like problems we could address. That's when I realized na, oh, this is actually like a good idea.
Thank you so much. Jed, what was the origin story of Lisa? What was the initial problem that your group was trying to solve?
So, I guess for our case naman, it's mostly, parang we're not a group, originally, we weren't a group that was very active in looking for ideas. Parang yun na lang. It was mostly like, every time we get together to think of an idea, we always end up going out to eat na lang, ganun, and then like chilling lang. So, I guess what happened was, it was by chance, because one of our members, si Byron, he's basically the noisiest guy of our batch. So with him, yung nangyari lang was basically his yaya or his house help suddenly got sick, and because of that, she had to leave. But he never knew the impact it would make na kaya mawala ng cleaner or whatever. So they noticed that their houses started getting dirty, and yun, like he found out that it was so hard to look for a cleaner or someone or even like a cleaning service, because especially if you're at that point na you've never tried it, so you don't know who to go to and like all of those other things. So there were a lot of like different problems, and he thought that it could be like a very good way for us to try to solve that problem. So I guess that's how we basically started. At first it was laundry, pero hassle. So parang medyo kadiri eh. So parang what they did was like cleaning na lang, house cleaning.
That's really interesting. Nick, how did you come up with Venti and eventually Venti Eats?
Before coming up with the idea of Venti Eats, we experienced a lot of like twists and turns, had a lot of pivots, and encountered a lot of obstacles along the way. So yeah, as you mentioned, Venti was originally something else, which was an events place. So the idea really stemmed from our interest because I'm a DJ and I found some sort of disconnect between like the events industry and its customers. So people usually have a difficult time looking for DJs, performers, events places. So that was a problem that we wanted to address. And at the same time, my partners or co-founders also had experience in that particular industry because they were well exposed with different events and activities and in their orgs, yeah. So that's why they have decided to join me in this journey. And in the midst of our little adventure, we faced like a challenge that no one could have expected. So we were already around 70% into completion of our website when the pandemic hit us hard. So we were cornered in a way that we didn't really know whether to proceed with or to pivot into something else. So the clock was ticking, right? So we had to think fast. Then finally, we decided to push through with the pivot and focus on a new and emerging market brought about by the pandemic, the home entrepreneurs. So that was how Venti Eats was born. Yeah, so actually just a little backstory now. So I'm okay, so my case is actually unique because I didn't form, I mean, previously I was part of a group in the ITE class, but after like thinking hard, I thought that um, I wanted to create something unique, which meant that I needed some diversity inside my or in my team. So that's why I got co-founders from different courses. So yeah, that's how we started.
Great, that's really interesting. I think it's great how you were able to pivot Venti to Venti Eats given the pandemic, and I think that's super important part of the whole the startup journey, or even the startup process. And also, yeah, very unique setup with your group. So you mentioned that you're the only ITE student in your group. So I think that shows how flexible the ITE thesis can be, especially because we're so few in the course. So we really have to adapt and do it and make do with what we can. All right, next question. Jed, what were the biggest challenges you faced throughout Lisa's journey, and how did you overcome these challenges? You can also talk about current challenges you are facing right now.
So I'll talk about the previous challenge muna, like the first one, because I think that's the one that is probably most applicable. I think it's the fact that um, you have to strike a very good balance. Like before the idea and all those other things, I think the idea, any idea can, most ideas can probably succeed, but execution is probably the hardest part, because being a student is like very difficult, especially if that's your priority. Um, and with that, this becomes kind of like a sideline and parang gray area siya because it's your thesis. However, it's not really part of like super academics, especially if you wanna like, I don't know, get honors or whatever. So that's like a very big load that you have to carry. And more than that, I feel like you have to strike a very good balance between with the group, because for my case, we were all barkada, we were all friends. Eh. So with that, it's normally really hard to boss all your friends suddenly just because of this. So I think that was like the biggest problem that we had at first, and we didn't know who was in charge of what. And even though we all gave each other like designated stuff already, it doesn't mean that we were sure that, for example, I was good in maybe operations, this guy was good in like getting other people to like come in and join. So I guess um, really having a very good understanding with each other and always leveling with everyone is probably the most important thing and the biggest problem that we had to overcome. And currently naman, our the problem that we face with Corona would be, of course, no one is allowed to basically enter other people's homes, which is like which has basically affected us in a big way as well. However, I think the workaround that we did was, instead of cleaning other people's homes, we pegged it as disinfecting, because our partners started releasing or rolling out disinfecting services. So it could be not in homes anymore. It could be in small office spaces, small areas, anywhere basically where people need to have things disinfected. So basically, parang it's like a big fog machine that they have now. They just spray all of those things. So I guess that's how we can adapt or transition. So I feel like most businesses, unless you're purely super physical or like brick and mortar talaga, can actually adapt to this. It's I guess it's how badly you want it to work also that can help you like that can help push you talaga to do that. Yeah, I think that was the hardest. So team, getting to have a great team, because if you have a great team, super good and smooth execution, and then other than that would be to always look for new ways. Your startup not really pivot in such a big way, but I guess slight pivot lang to be able to cope with everything that's happening.
I'm glad that you mentioned about the balancing school and thesis. So for
Yeah.
a group that are really looking to push through with projects or with their startups even past college, the whole thesis becomes more than just a thesis. So how are you guys, or maybe how are you personally able to balance that out, balancing your schoolwork and also having a business?
Yeah, I think to help everyone, it's basically parang kakayanin lang talaga yan. Because normally it's like, everything always feels really difficult or impossible, especially when finals comes in. So I guess the advantage of my team, I guess, since we were a big team, as well as sila Angela, I think, yeah, they were a lot as well. Eh. So I think the best part of that was that we were taking different classes. So mostly batch 1, batch 2 kami. Every time patay sa ACADS, like this team like kind of like dies down a bit, and then that team comes over. And then I guess number 2 would be like hindi ka nagbibilang, like you're not mabilang when it comes to, you don't count the amount of stuff that you do. because that leads to fights, right? So it's always like, if ever I'm free, I do my best. Because I'll never be able to make sure, other than the fact that syempre yung schedule. But of course, like if like bad prof like tells you like you have a test today and you can't na. So I guess every time I am free, um, I guess I really try to help out, especially when other people can. So I step in, pero kung di ko kaya, other people will step in. So we don't really count how much we do, but normally it's like, oh, thanks man, para I owe you one. Ganun. So para, and next time cover for me. So it's always covering for each other. The fact that we were a lot. So I guess that was like the biggest thing. And to avoid fights talaga, we always, I guess, strive for, or everyone naman sees the goal that we have to do, not really the amount of work that has to be done.
In terms of groups, you mentioned that you were with your barkada, and I think having a solid group is very important at the start because groups, I guess, are somewhat harder to change than the idea that you have. What would you say are the pros and cons with having a group that's with your friends or with your close friends compared to having a group that's with people who you're not really super close to but you get to work well with naman?
I guess the easiest advantage that you would have would be, I guess, I don't know, parang uncomplicated ng term, but it's like psychological safety. So basically, at least everyone is comfortable enough to say something bad about someone else. Not, I mean, criticize, diba? So the mere fact that we can criticize other people, especially since we're all friends, it means that it's basically no hard feelings lang naman. It's all understood. And I guess that can also be established in a group where you're not really so familiar with your friends. However, I feel like that's the most important thing because normally a group doesn't work every time you don't like something about what that person did and you don't like voice it out or you don't clarify with him or you don't do anything because you're shy. Yung parang ganon. Especially if you don't know them. Syempre, you don't want to give a bad impression and at the same time, you don't want to be like a super like mean person naman and try to like make everything very hostile. So I guess and sorry, did that answer your question when it comes to so basically I think it's just because of that. And then the disadvantages naman of being in a group with your friends is like sometimes they tend to rely on each other naman. It's very dependent usually because if he's your friend, you'd be more comfortable maybe telling him that you weren't able to do the things that you had to do as compared to someone because you feel like nahihiya ka pa and like you really want to, of course, put on a good impression. So I guess really making sure that those lines or basically drawing those lines talaga, making them really clear that even though you're friends, parang work is work and then fun is fun. Ganun. That's really important.
Yes, thank you so much, Jed. Nick, what were the biggest challenges you faced in your journey with Venti and Venti Eats?
Okay, so technology really was a big factor for us because we wanted to build a website with many complex functions, but we didn't really have like funding. So we were also not backed up by some VC, and that was another limitation on our end. So now that we are getting bigger and we started, we were getting bigger and we were getting more traction. Another thing that I could say would be there are a lot of emerging startups that are trying to also or that are also building somehow like the same business model as ours. So that's another like challenge for us. And I guess now that I've experienced all of these like pivots and whatnot, so the most important thing for us or the most important challenge for us to surpass would be to survive, amidst all of the emerging startups and the other competition around us. So yeah.
You mentioned something about funding and not being backed yet by a VC firm. Is that something that your group plans on achieving sometime soon, or is that not really on your minds right now?
Well, as much as possible, we would want to be funded, but right now our main focus is really to try to break even first so that once we get funding, our shares won't be as like small compared to when we when we already break even and when we already have value, then that's the time we would get funding.
Thank you so much, Nick. Angela, what were the biggest challenges you faced with ACADS?
So I guess for because like we have pre-COVID and then there's like now. So pre-COVID, I think, yeah, similar to Venti Eats, our biggest problem was actually like development. Because even if we were a group of 8 that became 9, none of us were actually like very good with programming back end. Like most of us were like familiar with front end, but back end you were clueless. So you really had to like look for an outside developer. And I guess at the time, because we were also juggling school with ACADS, school with the business, we didn't think about it as much as we should have. Like I guess when I think about it now, we kind of gave the developers this idea and we gave them features and stuff. And then we kind of gave it to them. And then they did most of the thinking now, most of the logic and everything. Now that I'm currently like, since we're making the actual like ACADS website now for like the COVID, like online and all, like we're more involved with like the actual planning and developing. And there's actually a lot of things to think about when it comes to creating the website. So another problem we had before was actually getting to our target market. So our target market were actually like parents of grade schoolers and high schoolers. And most of we couldn't really use our parents because like most of them are like pretty old or like most of their kids are like college now or maybe like graduated. So we really needed to find a way to go to our like target market. Like at the time, what we did was we actually like went to the schools physically and gave away flyers. And it actually helped because we were also able to talk to like parents that were actually interested in getting tutors for their kids. We learned about their problems, just what you need to do talaga as a startup. And I guess that's transitioning to now. Like so now actually that target market problem is even worse because right now we can't actually go to the schools. Most like parents, I guess like they're not super duper active in in Facebook. Also, some of them are a good number, but then most of them are really like in Viber groups, and that's what we're trying to get into right now. How we can market through Viber, which is unknown territory to us because like we don't really use Viber most of the time. But yeah, so that's like what I'm doing right now. Because yeah, as a startup, we actually kind of like what Jed said, you kind of have to like salo each other, like even though you have like designated roles or like names. Like my like position is chief operating officer, but then honestly, I've also been creatives, I've also been marketing, also HR. So you have to learn how to wear like many different hats when you're making a startup.
A while ago, you mentioned about some challenges with development. Recently, I saw that you launched your website for ACADS. So congrats, by the way, for that. How is ACADS gonna plan to deal with development from here on out? And I guess, how do you plan to handle future iterations and just maintenance of the website and of your code?
For those who don't know, our website is acadsph.com. So I'm not sure, like, but yeah, by the time you see this naman, it'll still be up. But right now, it's actually just a landing page. So it's actually just like, it comprises of 2 pages. So it's an informational page, which is the landing page. And then the second page is a booking form, which is actually just linked to Google Forms. So if you check it, it's actually like, it's part of the website, but it's Google Forms. So it's really a basic like front-end website right now. So what we're doing right now is we're actually creating like the actual fully online platform. So we're creating like tutor and parent dashboards, we're connecting payment, we're using Paymongo if you guys are familiar. And then we're also using we're planning to use the Zoom API so that you can just join the session within the website mismo. So you actually have to do like a lot pa. So I'm not necessarily sure how exactly we're going to go about maintenance since we're still technically developing the fully online website.
Really excited for all those features that are going to come. So guys, make sure to check out the ACADS website. Is it acadsph.com? Did I get that right? acadsph.com. Yeah, and hopefully the whole, all the new features will be will be there really soon. Now that we talked about challenges you faced, let's talk about some of your most exciting moments. Nick, can you share some of your biggest breakthrough moments with your startup?
So our greatest breakthrough would be launching our website because we felt like at that time like all of our hard work, our time invested into it, and all of our efforts really paid off. And it was also so fulfilling when we received like heartwarming comments and messages from our dear merchants telling us or like thanking us for building like a platform for them and for always supporting them. So yeah, so that was the most fulfilling moments that we had during the startup.
Uh, Yeah, congrats on that. I actually saw the Venti Eats website a few days ago, and it looked really great. Nick, maybe you want to give a quick plug of your website URL so our members can check it out.
Okay, so don't forget to check out www.ventieats.com. That is VENTII eats.com, and like and share our Facebook and Instagram page at Venti Eats.
Thank you so much, Nick. Angela, can you share some of the most exciting moments you've had with ACADS?
I guess, well, like for me, it's just personal. I kind of like get excited when like we realize we create this like relationship between a tutor and the student. It's like, like a lot of times parents would book maybe just like one session or a couple of sessions. But then there are these rare times where like, I mean, not really super rare, but then there are these times where the parent or the student really likes the tutor and then they constantly book. And it's like they're like, we already know that like that parent wants to get that specific tutor. So that's like, I don't know, it was like a fun, like, for me personally. I guess breakthrough would be like this is towards ideation though. Because at first the idea was just generally to connect freelance tutors to students. I guess the breakthrough was when we realized that we could actually help college student tutors. Like we didn't go that specific until some point during our first sem theory. Like it wasn't the initial idea. But then when we consulted we consulted a friend of our thesis prof who actually created a similar business, but then they had to close down. So he told us that there's an opportunity in finding college student tutors. And then I realized, oh yeah, like I had a lot of friends that were tutors themselves and they would like post on Facebook, just like posters of them. So it didn't really reach a lot of people. But then like I guess when I realized oh shucks, yeah, we will be helping these college student tutors, like mostly scholars, like academic achievers, ganon, yeah.
Great, great, great. Yeah, you mentioned a while ago, like just seeing your customers book the same tutors again, and I think it's one of the most satisfying parts of having a business, just seeing your customers satisfied and seeing that you're addressing a need. All right, thank you so much, Angela. Jed, can you share some of your best moments with Lisa?
I guess the best moment that we've ever had was the day na we finally got our app to go through. Because I think at that point, I think loko-loko kasi my group. So it was like, tara, go big or go home. App na. Wag website, app. And then para lahat ng tao, pare, mahal lang app. They're like, okay lang yan, let's go. Let's find a cheap one. Ganun. So we found like one. It was relatively okay. And then when we were going to launch it na, I think the most exciting one was the last day of our third year. Because that was the moment that I think si Ma'am Claire pa rin yung teacher or yung prof for that. So she's really good. And basically we wanted to be super madres to the point that like we have a working app parang prototype na and stuff. So we had one. Basically we were able to do that entire app in 2 days because we crammed it so hard na kawawa our developer. But I think that was like the best ever feeling. And then the second one, which was supposed to be like the best ever, was when we launched it to App Store. So it's available now. But we launched it quietly and then to see lang, like just to see if it's okay and stuff. And then I guess we were supposed to announce it like a week after kasi na okay, we launched it to make sure everything's going well. Pero when we were going to announce it, biglang nag-announce na lockdown. So parang alat. So I guess that wasn't the most exciting one. So the most exciting one was when Pride finally became true to life, because after like countless papers, countless of everything, I guess er- the end goal lang naman that everyone wants to reach is to have to be able to feel at least, or to see it come to life. So I guess yeah, that was the best feeling naman that we had.
Congrats on that. I actually haven't seen the app yet, but I'll make sure to check it out later. And guys, make sure to check out Lisa on the App Store as well. All right, next question. What are your plans for your startup now, and how do you see it growing and developing in the next few months or even few years?
Alright. Well, I guess future plans, like since we're going on like fully online talaga, it'll be easier for us to integrate more learning tools. So like we're not really sure when, if it's really gonna be like in 5 years or in like the far future pa, but we really want like ACADS to be like very like edtech like go to for tutorials. So we were hoping like these are like dreams lang. We're not even sure if it could happen, but we'd also want to have like academic progress trackers, and we'd want to integrate stuff like Kahoot or other like learning materials like that, where it's easier for like our tutors and like more fun for our students. And I guess we do have the ability to go like nationwide since we are online. But I guess like it's not a direct goal for us to go like nationwide. But I feel like in the next few years it would be possible.
Okay, thank you so much. Lisa, what are your plans for your startup now, and how do you see it developing in the near future?
The plans right now would be we go back to the root, or like what it means, especially like a cleaning kind of business, because it's not really it's something that's really hard for people to come in and join, but mostly it's a relational kind of thing. So we always go back to that, especially when we decide on what we have to do. And right now I think contrary to how people visualize like startups should be, I guess we're doing the opposite. Instead of growing, since we have like a customer base already, so we made sure to strengthen our relationship with our existing base, because I think as of now currently that's the best that we can do, because rather than like spending a lot on advertising, like coming up with so much stuff and sponsorships and ads to make people basically come in and join, which they most likely will not join because of this pandemic. So I think that the best way to do it is to cater it to the people who've already tried it and who have been getting, and basically peg it as um, a disinfecting service or something. So this is also seen in the major competitors. Like a lot of them technically closed down, but they didn't cite that they closed down to the public. So right now, what they're doing is, since they have a large customer base that is already very like self-sufficient for them, not to really grow as fast as possible, but for them to basically have a stable amount of income. I guess that's what we're kind of trying to do as well. For them to basically every week to have like a disinfecting service, or every 2 weeks for them to be able to avail, because we're going long term with these people. It's better to get a few customers, by the way, that always get from you, as compared to getting 1,000 people and never coming back to ever get your items or for your service. So I think that's the most important part, our relationship building. And I feel like in the future plans, if once everything is back to normal, that's when we can start building off. And by then we would already have like a stronger foundation. That's our approach to things. So when we have a stronger foundation, it's easier to scale up na by then.
Thank you so much, Jed. For Venti Eats, especially since you just recently pivoted from an event services platform to now a food service platform, how do you see Venti Eats developing in the near future, and even in the coming years?
Okay. So currently, we're in our first phase, which is really more about our advocacy, helping our merchants, and developing the platform. So we'll actually be launching a order form, order tracking, and we want to have like a full experience or full store experience for our merchants, as well as a delivery and courier service and an integrated payment platform soon. So yeah, we'll be launching that soon. And I guess we also want to build on and strengthen the food community to foster trust and enable the users to share their passion for food through our platform. So yeah, finally, I guess we envision to become one of the leading food community driven platform locally and hopefully internationally.
Thank you so much. So we're down to the last two questions. What advice and tips can you give the current ITE students in relation to starting their thesis? Maybe some tips about forming groups or choosing an idea to pursue.
All right. So I guess the most important message that I have, like personally from like my own like from my own experiences would be um more than like being really tawag dito? Like more than being very open or very active or like very being very excited to create like your own startup. From what I've seen, it's mostly the first startup might not always work as well. So maybe some of you guys will basically start like make if you're really interested about like you can build off like a new idea out of every idea. However, the things that don't change is something that I feel like is important. So these are basically all of your friends, everyone that you're gonna meet. Because I feel like regardless, like right now, for example, if ever Lisa weren't um gonna push through it, or if it wasn't gonna push through anymore, for example, I feel like the friendship that we have with those people will last. And if ever malay mo, like we make another idea next time and you always have like a good set of like team na, a good team to be able to pitch this to, and basically it's easy not to go from there. So I feel like it's the friends. Never forget your friends. Ox lang if you forget like some other people, pero not really the friends that you make because I feel like they're the ones na especially and this is like what I feel also since I just started working. I feel like college friends are really different compared. I mean, para high school and then college. But after that, it's a bit harder to create like good friends na. So I guess like as early as like 3 weeks of working, parang I feel na you really should cherish like all the time you have in college and like be close talaga, like don't lose touch with other people as much as you can. So I feel like with that, like I think my answers are mostly like people based, being able to work well with other people, because I feel like once you're that's basically just it. Like other than that, anything that you want to do as long as you have a good team is okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Jed. Nick, what advice and tips can you give the current ITE students in pursuing their thesis?
Okay, so I guess I just wanted to share real world applications and strategy that isn't really limited to school and thesis. So, yeah, this would be really helpful, especially to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to pursue their thesis project in the future. So, first is to start with your interests. So, look for something that you're interested in or passionate about and try to find a common problem that you or other people experience. So, then from that, you can create something or try to solve that problem and come up with the solution. So that's just like what we did with our events management or events marketplace and as well as our um, food platform. So the second would be find a niche market. So I know a lot of you or many of you want to think big and target as many people as possible, aiming to become like the next Amazon, Lazada. But here's the thing. So if you're targeting too much people at the same time, so you lose focus and you waste a lot of time and your efforts will be divided. So to be honest with you, that's what we really wanted to do at first with our events marketplace. So we wanted to have a lot of categories and a lot of listings, but ironically it slowed us down and we couldn't really scale because we were stretching ourselves too thin. So I guess the last and yeah, the most important would be to start. So success only comes through action. So don't wait for that push that will probably never come. So I guess one day you'll look back and think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, or oh, that was also my idea, that could have been me. So really, start now. So don't be afraid to fail, because failure is just a setback and is a part of success. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nick. Angela, what advice and tips can you give the current students now for starting their thesis?
Okay, so actually my advice has a little of both of what Judd and Nick said. So my first would be like towards those like forming groups. Because actually my group, like we were a group of 8 that turned 9. And we weren't all like a barkada like Sinajed. Actually, like I was only like kind of friends with a few of them. And then a couple of them asked if they could join us because they didn't have a group yet. So at first, like I was kind of scared as to how that would go since I wasn't that like familiar with them. But the thing is, like we made sure talaga na like we were all like a safe space. Like any ideas you have we'd be very open to listen to. Like we were all like we made sure that our communication was like very clear. Like we always talked to each other about like what was going on. Like if we couldn't do a certain task, we'd always like be open to tell the others, and we'd be okay with that naman. So I guess what my advice would be like, even if you don't really know your group mates, or if you might not be like kabarkada with them, then it's actually fine. Like I'm actually really thankful for the people I actually met because of thesis. Like I feel like like you just have to make sure talaga to secure like a safe space that your startup's really for like your growth, and you're all aware that you want what's best for your group talaga, what's best for your thesis, for your startup. So you shouldn't like bring each other down, or like be shy to like someone because you're not that close to them, because really they want ACADS, they want the startup to succeed. So it's best talaga to be open and to be transparent with your group mates, whether you're like close to them or not. And then I guess I was also going to mention failing fast, or like starting already, like what Nick did, because actually like what ACADS did was we actually like launched through Facebook. Like we didn't have a website just yet. So we just posted like online, like we were saying that we can connect tutors to students, and then parents would message us, and we have like a Facebook group with our tutors. So actually, even if you don't have like the website or the app just yet, you actually can already like try to launch your idea just to check if it works. What doesn't work, you can already change it even before you have the website. So like it's kind of like experimenting before you like launch the actual website, because it's gonna be kind of sayang if you have like all these ideas and you make the website and you pala something doesn't work about it. So parang failing fast is better than like failing hard or something. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Angela. And we are down to the last question. So as you know, this panel interview is mainly for Reboot, our freshman preparatory course. So any general college advice or tips you would want to share to our freshies and shift-ins as they enter college? So for this one, anyone can start.
Sige. Honestly, like, really cherish every moment you have in college. I guess that's something like the batch of 2020 took for granted talaga, because our senior year was cut short. So even if it seems like you have like you have like 4 years might be too long for you or something, it's actually gonna go really quick. And like don't take, like, for me, I don't know if this is something you guys would agree with also, but like don't take everything too seriously. Like for example, like you don't have to be too focused on ACADS, or like too immersed in your org. I kind of did both. I mean, like I'm doing both. Like I think it's nice to have like a balance of like like ACADS, like friends, like org work. Because like I guess eventually, like I mean, like now that we graduated, ACADS doesn't exist anymore, and really what's left are like the lesson, like the skills you've garnered because of like all the academics, your org work, all of the friends you've like met through college, and like so for me, like this is, I don't know how to word it properly, but like don't come into college thinking that okay, they're going to teach me what I'm gonna do or what exactly I'm going to do. This is like a plan. No, it's really like like you learn stuff and then you learn about yourself, about skills that you're good at pala or stuff you need to work on pala. And then those are the things that will like help you like in the future. Because you'll constantly be learning after college. So yeah, I guess another advice would be like, you know, like be okay with like learning because you'll have to do it like after college also. Yeah, something like that.
Thank you so much. Jed and Nick.
All right. So I guess my message to freshmen, right, and shift-ins would be like, especially for shift-ins, it doesn't mean if you're not from ITE or you weren't originally from ITE, it doesn't mean that you can't do basically the things that parang you're not really IT people are not entitled to na sila lang basically yung pwedeng gumawa ng stuff like what Nick has. Like she's the only one actually in her team that's from ITE, and then it's actually other people like from Comtech, diba? And those people from Comtech, like one of them were even from Comtech before. Parang that kind of thing. So it really disregard the course. Number two, it's always being able to establish siguro a really good understanding and finding the right people. Like as much as you want your friends to be part also, you also have to think that if that is going to kind of hinder the parang relationship you have. Especially kuya, normally, diba, you want like a lot of friends or parang you want to have like a really good group of friends. However, feel mo yung parang if you start something with them, baka mag-away lang kaya. So you have to really check that because like there was almost a point now we were starting to fight. So you always have to make sure that even though you fight with those people, in the end, you're still friends with them. And siguro number three, which is like the most important thing for me, would be a lot of things in college, like a lot of things that they tell you in college is mostly like BS. Um, a lot of them, but however, I feel like a lot of those BS, like you really have to go through all of them. Like to realize like later on na, this is BS pala. Because you won't know eh. So I guess it's like that. And then it's mostly like grabbing every single opportunity out there. It doesn't mean that also for those IT freshmen, it probably doesn't mean that if you're IT, you're really stuck to like having to do this kind of thing. If it's not your thing, it's okay. Um, it's always looking out for every single basically opportunity because the only thing stopping us lang naman normally is because parang we're scared, we feel like we can't do it, ganun. But get small, like apply it for everything. In my case, like I really wanted to get internships. So as early as like start of second year, started looking already. Even though parang normally I think it's like before fourth year, that's when you start looking. I think that norm has to be slowly like taken down and stuff because as something as simple as that, and this is just an example lang naman, it's like being able to get the things you want by like looking for a way. Like in the end, lahat discarded, lahat naman hustle lang naman. So I guess if you want to look back on college, in my perspective, it's a balance between having like really good friends and like having like a lot of fun, and at the same time being able to at least check a lot of the things I kind of wanted to do or I realized that I wanted to do during my stay. Akads, kung priority, edi kailangan baba natin din. So it's like work hard, pero like also like make sure to enjoy.
All right, thank you, Jed. And last but not the least, Nick. Um, yeah, what's some general college advice you can give to our freshies and our shift-ins?
Okay, so I guess this year, college will be different, especially because of the pandemic. But I guess the most important thing would be to seek impactful discoveries you won't forget and learn from the experiences you encounter and build connections. So, yeah, to add on to that, I guess, yeah, don't forget to have fun. So, yeah, just enjoy, have fun, and make the most out of your college experience. So, yeah, just to stressing on the experience, no, I just want to share also, like, most of the knowledge that you will get isn't really just from school. So I guess through the years, I've learned from a lot of different people, a lot of like I got knowledge from a lot of conferences. So I guess the one tip I could also give you, like if you're more into really building your startup and also continuing that in the future. So I guess one thing is that try to go out and learn from people, interact with different people, grow your network, and also like attend different conferences so you also get to know more about their like experiences, or you get more ideas. And yeah, that's it.
Right, thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for sharing your insights, challenges you face, your best moments, and even your wisdom from all the experience you've gained in your 4 years in college. It was great to see all these different perspectives on creating a startup and even just being a college student in general. And it shows how flexible this can be, and that there are so many ways to go about it. Um, so that concludes our Reboot Thesis panel discussion. Thank you guys again for taking the time to be with us today. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us. So thank you so much. And to all our freshies and shift-ins watching, that wraps up day 2 of Reboot. So I hope you guys enjoyed the amazing race today and our thesis panel discussion. For tomorrow, we'll be having our last speaker, and we'll be having our presentations for your innovation challenges. And we are super excited to see what you have. So thank you guys, and see you guys tomorrow.